Hello, everybody, and thank you for all coming. It's fantastic to see so many people here. Um, the Shots That Challenge Us is the title of this chat, and we have four incredible cinematographers here. Here, Bradford Young, who has shot 57 films, including Beasts of the Southern Wild.
No,
Is this not what?
never happened.
Okay. It's the IMDb problem.
I'll take some of Rob's credits, but I'm not taking that one.
Okay.
I'm not taking that one.
A most violent year?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. How come that's on your IMDb? So I'm getting all my information from IMDb, which is funny because the next person, Rob Hardy, who has shot 34 films, if you see his IMDb, there's a guy with very, very dark complexion in the photograph that's meant to be him.
Well, it is me, but just in a different form.
In a completely different form. Anyway, Rob Hardy, we're very lucky to have as well, who shot Boy A, Shadow Dancer, Ex Machina, Testament of Youth, just to tell you of a few. Chris Ross has shot also 40 movies, and including Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, Black Sea,
I did shoot that.
Sense of an Ending.
I did shoot that.
Yeah, nice. Good. And Ula Pontikos, has shot Weekend, Lilting, and The Second Coming. So thank you, all four of you, for coming. I will start by... I will start by banging on yet again, which I do on a regular basis, about what we do as cinematographers and what an image is. And what an image is not a representation of what's in front of you. An image for us cinematographers has to be about what we do with that image and how we convey the emotion of that image. And that has three-dimensionality. Often, it's not what's in front of the camera, it might be what's behind the camera. But the important thing is, as cinematographers, is to be able to find the best shot, the best angle, the best movement of camera to evoke the emotion of that scene. And we have four cinematographers here who are brilliant at that. And I'd love to start with Bradford Young and ask him about his choice and why he chose his piece of film.
Well, I still feel like it's hard to describe that, but I mean, the film thing for me is strange because it's not really what it's not what I was supposed to do. So when I made a decision that I was going to be a cinematographer, I had references, and there's like that thing that's way over, this existential thing that's way over there that you want to put your hands on, but you're constantly, as an artist, as a jazz musician, whatever you do, you're constantly trying to reach that thing. And so just in terms of not necessarily photographic technique, but intention, Mother of George is still, as far as I'm concerned, it's the one movie where I felt like I was experiencing euphoria making it, and I experienced euphoria as an audience member watching it. So I feel like I still I can communicate clearly what my intention is or what my intentions were with this piece of work. All the other films I've made, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell I did. So, but this one, I still feel like I resolved some issues. I came to kind of understand what it was. What it was I was trying to do. So I could just communicate better intention through this film.
So what? It's the way you use the camera emotionally, the way you told the story.
Yeah, it's where the
conventional way.
It's where the camera is, It's where the camera is. It's how you bear witness to life. In this film is I thought was completed the circle. A lot of what we do is objectify things. That's part of our poison as a cinematographer is that filmmaking has been an objectified art form that tends to gaze but not get involved. And so Mother of George, I feel like is one where we're inside the meta of humanity. It's not one where we're just saying, there goes those Africans. Watch what Africans do. This is, I am an African, and I'm bearing witness to the familiar, and not, I'm unfamiliar and I'm scared and I'm not getting in. This one gets in. And so I think that's why I'm proud of it, because it crosses that boundary that I feel like a lot of films that photograph people of color don't often do. They sit back and observe, but they don't get in. And so this is the one I'm most proud about for that.
And I mean, would this be an approach for any film you do? I mean, are you going to do that on Star Wars?
That's the intention.
And he's just about to start Star Wars, and that's a plot-driven film.
Yeah, I mean,
with a lot of plots and lots
sure.
of things, and obviously not quite as emotional as a more sensitive, independent art house movie.
Film, right? I mean, even with Arrival, that was.
And Arrival, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I had to, I felt like I knew Louise, all my friends that have kids are always questioning the mortality of their children. So that was the entryway in, and so that was, that helped me sort of determine how close I could get to Louise. And that for me, like even now, when I'm doing tests and I put the subject, I'm doing screen tests, so it's just a stand-in in the camera. I have a process where I look at where's the lens and where's the subject. If it's 6 feet away, that's not the right film. It's got to be 18 inches away. So I'm always taking a step back to look. There goes the lens, there goes the subject. Hey, you're too far away. Well, it means you probably need to go with a wider lens. It's like closing that gap for me is important for me. If I don't close the gap, then I, literally and figuratively, then I don't feel like I'm doing my job as a cinematographer. And so, I'm trying to close that gap on Star Wars. I'm trying to break the tropes of Star Wars where you go back and you go longer. For me, I want to get in that much closer. And so that's...
Well, it's brilliant to hear this. It's absolutely brilliant to hear this, because although we have an exhibition here of amazing cameras and 4K, 8K, 2K, whatever it might be, it's nothing to do with that. It's about what he's talking about. It's about emotion. It's about how you reflect and you tell a story emotionally as a cinematographer. And that's the same that... all four of these cinematographers, I think, do that in every way. So maybe the best thing to do now is just to see it, and then we'll talk about it once we've seen it. And you could tell us your thought process. Okay, let's see the first one, please.
B.
Below now. Where is she?
B. Wá jókòó lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ mi, wá.
When you fool around,
Amy? No, not me.
pretend as nothing happened.
Tí ewúrẹ́ bá jẹ lọ, á padà wálé. When a goat strays, it must always return home, because home is where your peace and happiness dwells.
Always come home to sleep, always come home to eat.
And even if you have eaten, come home to eat again.
We must provide her with a good home. Home full with children. Get busy.
Kẹ́tẹ̀ fún díẹ̀ fún àwọn òrìṣà. Àwọn ìyá lódùmarè kó gbàdúrà wa.
Àmín.
So unconventionally covered, back of the guy's head, but emotionally covered, as you say. Yeah. Tell us a bit more about it, and maybe the film itself, but maybe you've already spoken quite a bit about that.
Yeah, I think the final frame kind of seals it up for me when Isaac actually turns towards you, the viewer, towards you, the person who's involved in this ritual, in this ceremony, not turning towards you as the person that doesn't know, the person who just sort of stepped in as an outsider. He turns to you at the end as an insider, and gives you blessings, not just the people at the table. We actually break the wall, and he says to us, these are the blessings for our ancestors. So that intermediary, invisible, sort of existential thing isn't a foreign thing. It's actually something that I can touch. It's part of my daily ritual, and he's not assuming that it's not part of my daily ritual. The character's assuming that I know the language, that I know the culture, that I know the ritual. And so that, for me, all those angles as we just kind of peer over somebody's shoulder, I mean, that could be a child looking in. It could be their first time seeing a wedding. It could be the first time that a child who considers their culture less than the other could see the wonder, the beauty of ritual, the intention of the elders, the intention of the ancestors. So all those angles for me are just one observing as an insider, not one observing as an outsider. Again, the lighting also. I think there are two ways of looking at it, and it's all relevant. I think it's all based on taste. But the obscurity of lighting, not giving it all away, not giving you everything. In life, we don't get all of it. We don't get everything we want. We just get the bits and pieces, the little magical moments in between the darkness. And so, again, restrain lighting so that the focus could be in one particular area, but it could also hold back and not give everything. So again, it's just this perpetual idea of, my concern with the art form is that I want to be in it. I want to be involved. Not because Rob's here with me, but just to be honest with you, is when the first time I saw the first grader, I just said, "That's it. How come I don't see black faces photographed like that?" There's a proximity in that film that's continuous, that's relentless, that connected with me, and so and that connection and that proximity. Is if I took a lifetime to explore that part in my body of work, I'd be happy, just to try to break that boundary that's often sort of like a invisible line we don't cross. And so that's really what that scene's about, just being in it.
You're the cinematographer, very passionate. You've got a really good understanding of how you want to shoot this. Does that mean that you have to be with a director that is on your same wavelength?
Yeah.
And that because you've got to be completely. By the way you're talking, you're both.
Yeah, I mean, for me,
creating everything.
Yeah, it's a love affair for me. You know, if there's no love affair, then I'm not interested. So, with somebody like Andrew, Andrew's a chain of transmission. Before I shot for Andrew, Malik Saeed shot for Andrew. Before I shot for Andrew, Arthur Jaffa shot for Andrew. And so it's a continuum. For me, it was just I just got the baton handed to me. When Andrew was looking for a cinematographer, he called Malik, and Malik said, "Well, the next one up is this young guy over here." And that's how I got Restless City, and that's how we made Mother of George together. So we made Where's Kira? And I say all that to say that it's a community building venture. I know and love and are humbled by Andrew's work. And that is part of the reason why I collaborate with him, because I have a healthy fear of him. I have a healthy amount of really respect for him. And so, same with Denis, I've been a fan of Denis since Polytechnic. It was a dream. It was a dream, really, to collaborate with him. I feel honored and quite humbled because it was something that, if there's anything I've envisioned for myself, that might be one of the collaborations I said in my mind, I have to shoot for that guy one day. And it was because his body of work, I have a love affair with his body of work. And so whether it be Andrew, whether it be Ava, whether it be Lord and Miller, whether it be Denis, or J.C. Shandor, all those folks are people that I feel like I have a deep connection with, and that I can break bread with them after I finish the project. And I don't mind dropping my kids off at their house and feel like they'll be in safe place. Those are sort of manners. So I want to work with a director that just has just as much passion as me, because I always feel like directors have a vaccine, and they just inoculate you with this disease, with this thing, right? And when they give you this disease, that all we are carriers of the germ, And so, we put a lot of our own DNA out on the table to fulfill the vision. So it would be a total disappointment if it was over and I said, I didn't have any chemistry with that person. I got to have chemistry with you before we come, because I'm assuming that you're gonna if your sentence is 10 words long, you get to the 8th word, I can throw in the 9th and the 10th, and you say thank you. That's exactly what I would say. You know, with Andrew and I, it's sort of unspoken. We don't really talk much about what the shot is or what the lighting is or what the intention is. Our process is always going, even when we're not working together, we're working together, you know, so.
Well, of course, that's ideal. It doesn't always happen. And it's been great for you for it to have happened so often. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
and I think that's how you make great films. It's undoubtedly how you make great films. So let's talk now with Rob. And he's going to show us a bit of Ex Machina. Or Machina, I don't know how you pronounce it.
Machina? Ex Machina? We said Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
But anybody can say whatever they want.
Yeah. Exactly. Which is a beautiful film, beautifully, very different. And we'll be able to see, have a lot of technical challenges. But Rob is also somebody who is very specific about his framing, very specific about his lighting, and is very specific about the emotional-driven image, which I'm constantly talking about, which is what we should all be conscious of. And so talk a little bit about it, or do we want to see it first?
Actually, I just wanted to touch on a point that Bradford brought up in that sense of that idea of collaboration and how that can really affect, obviously clearly affect the work that you do. And you do start this relationship and this love affair, and often we'll get like an hour to meet a director, and that's within that hour you have to establish, is this going to work? Are we going to fall in love? You know, are we gonna have a really bad breakup halfway through? Can we trust each other? And I think this was an example for me of like an instant connection, really much more so than I'd experienced before. And I'd had some very good experiences before, but this was a sort of true feeling of like, I have to do this. I have to do this. This is, you know, this is my movie, and that's it. So before we'd even, it was like the first time I'd ever had that feeling of like a sort of pure clarity in my mind about this is what it is, this is how it's going to feel, this is how it's going to look, and it was all based essentially off one particular image that just came into my head, which is in this sequence, and it sort of worked out from that really.
Well, let's leave it at that, and then we'll continue this conversation. Let people see it, and then we can talk about everything from there.
What do you think?
What's it a drawing of?
Don't you know?
No.
I thought you would tell me.
Don't you know?
I do drawings every day, but I never know what they're of.
You're not trying to sketch something specific? Like an object or a person? Maybe you could try.
Okay. What object should I draw?
Whatever you want. It's your decision.
Why is it my decision?
I'm interested to see what you'll choose.
Do you want to be my friend?
Of course.
Will it be possible?
Why would it not be?
Our conversations are one-sided. You ask circumspect questions and study my responses.
Yes.
You learn about me, and I learn nothing about you. That's not a foundation on which friendships are based.
So what, you want me to talk about myself?
Yes.
Where okay, where do I start?
It's your decision. I'm interested to see what you'll choose.
Okay, Ava. Well, you know my name.
Yes?
I'm 26. I work at Nathan's company. Do you know what his company is?
Blue Book. Named after Wittgenstein's notes. It's the world's most popular internet search engine, processing an average of 94% of all internet search requests.
That's exactly right.
Where do you live, Caleb?
Brookhaven, Long Island.
Is it nice there?
It's okay. I got an apartment. It's kind of small. It's very small. But it's a 5-minute walk to the office and a 5-minute walk to the ocean, which I like.
Are you married?
No.
Is your status single?
Yes.
What about your family?
I grew up in Portland, Oregon. No brothers or sisters. My parents were both high school teachers. And if we're getting to know each other, I guess I should tell you they're both dead. Car crash when I was 15. In fact, I was in the car with them, back seat. But it was the front that got the worst of it.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I spent a long time in hospital afterward, like nearly a year, and I got into coding. And by the time I got to college, I was pretty advanced.
An advanced programmer.
Yes.
Like Nathan.
Yes. No. It's different. Nathan wrote the Blue Book base code when he was 13, which if you understand code, what he did was like Mozart or something.
Do you like Mozart?
I like Depeche Mode.
Do you like Nathan?
Yes, of course.
Is Nathan your friend?
My friend? Yeah, I hope so.
A good friend?
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, not a good friend. A good friend is, we only just met each other, you know? So it takes time to be able to get to know each other, I guess.
Power cut. Backup power activated.
You're wrong.
Wrong about what?
Nathan.
In what way?
He isn't your friend.
Excuse me? I'm sorry. Ava, I don't understand.
You shouldn't trust him. You shouldn't trust anything he says.
Power restored.
And if we made a list of books or works of art which we both know, it would form the ideal basis of a discussion. Is that okay? Caleb?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good.
It was quite, I just realised it was actually quite long. I thought it was.
Yeah, it was
just
quite
like,
long,
shit.
but beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And if you want to talk technically, a lot of crossing the lines, lots of. You're not looking down the line of people talking to each other. Lots of profiles, beautiful reflections. There's an intimacy there, and yet they're talking through glass. And I think that was very much the way that you composed everything to create intimacy, and yet they're far away from each other and quite cold. The environment's quite cold, and yet it's sensual and close.
Yeah. I mean, there are a number of things that are going on in that scene, obviously, and with every Ava session that we did, we we worked through this sort of, I guess, this process of each one should be very different from the last. But there needed to be some sort of gentle progression, and how you kind of balance that relationship that they were having and the play. I mean, what's really interesting about that is that, and sometimes when I watch it, I don't notice it, but I noticed it that time, is that the opening shot on Alicia, you're holding on it. And you never feel, I mean, maybe this is just me, but I never felt it was, you don't miss the cut. You don't miss seeing Domhnall until you do see him. And it's like you have time to study her in the same way that he studies her, in the same way that she is constantly being studied. And I think part of the success of her character is that you really identify with her as a human, if you like. So that when you get to that point in the story where she clothes herself and then she derobes, you really feel, there's a sort of very voyeuristic moment of like, I shouldn't be watching this because she's undressing, yet you've seen her already in that state. And I think a lot of the way we approached, it was this constant idea for us, is that we must never look away, we must always feel that proximity, we must always feel and treat her as if it's just a conversation you're finding out about someone, and there's
and that's the most important bit of everything you do. And yet, if you look at it, you say, oh, how do they do that without getting reflection of themselves? I mean, technically, also, it's not that easy.
Technically, it was a fucking nightmare.
It was a nightmare. There's a lot of, she must have had green all over and things. Well, actually, still had reflections in the glass, and then you weren't reflecting the glass, so you had to probably change the angles of the glass.
Yeah,
you did,
a lot of that was...
Technically, but ultimately, it's the story. Ultimately, it's a relationship between these two people. And that's, I think, what I'm trying to get at with all of us, is that we all have challenges which are technical, but actually that's not the most important. It's actually the story.
It's exactly
how well the story is told.
Yeah. And those scenes were, the Ava session scenes were very long. I mean, it's like they were often 8-10 pages of dialogue. I mean, it's almost like a theatre piece. You could just sit and watch. You can sit and watch it as a stage play. And we would always run, the whole idea is that we would always run those scenes, from beginning to end. And the camera would progress through the scene in the same way that Alicia or Domhnall would progress through the scene. So some of it was very, very choreographed, and some of it we sort of found. So we would, we'd dance floor the room, for example, and I'd have Sam kind of finger system where to my grip, Sam Phillips, who I think might be here, but I'd be doing just kind of feeling your way through the scenes, like just slow right down. She's gonna do something here. We need to capture that particular, and then now we should move through that and widen out and get. It was all of that stuff, and sometimes it worked, and other times you'd just be like, okay, we've got to go again. But we were restricted, very restricted.
So tell me your relationship with that director. What was that like?
It was one of those things where we just... It's almost like, Alex is a very collaborative human being, but he's just like super, super, super smart. I mean, incredibly smart. And always claimed that he has a huge problem with directors in general. And his thing is like, I'm not a director, and I'm not solely responsible for this. And whenever you see a film by, he's like, it's just fucking bullshit. It's to do with ego, and he's not interested. And his thing is very much like, I write the words, and she's taking those words and she's turning it into something else. And he's photographing her turning it into something else. And they're designing this in order for everybody to... It's that. And I think another reason why, for me, this works so well is that it was one of the few times where, in terms of filmmaking, we're always trying to... We live the dream that the film all those disparate elements will come together and work. And it's like, it shouldn't do it. I mean, when you look at how these things happen, and if a film does come together and it does work, on paper it shouldn't. It should never happen. It's like a helicopter shouldn't really fly. You force it into the air. It doesn't want to fly, but it does. You know, you have to work at it. And with this, it felt like everything sort of, as everything connected, it was all coming from Alex in the sense that he really allowed it. He really didn't step in the way of that process because there was no ego involved. And there was no concern about, you know, it was just purely story-driven. Plus, the script was amazing. And, like, even the sparks would be, like, I don't know if she should, you know, I mean, is she going to... I'll be like, yeah, I think she will. It's like, well... You talk to Alex, tell him.
So what's coming out of this is collaboration. I mean, amazing collaboration between all the people, you know, and it could be with the gaffer, it could be with everybody. Everybody is crucial to making any good film. So let's talk to Christopher now. And if you go on IMDb and look up Christopher, you... Chris Ross. If you go Chris Ross, he's not there, and so he has to be called Christopher. So his mother tells me.
It's just to keep my mum happy.
Yeah.
That's it.
So you've chosen a piece which is in a submarine. Just tell us a bit about the piece that you chose.
Yeah. So the piece that I've chosen is a very small sequence, but it's a single shot that's been edited into, but you can see the one shot as it progresses. The film's a film called Black Sea. It's effectively a film about the gold fever set in a submarine. Some guys take a submarine to the bottom of the Black Sea to steal some gold from a U-boat. About 70% of the film is shot inside the submarines. It's an incredibly claustrophobic environment, and slowly over time they all go, the 14 guys that are in the sub turn on each other, and it's, I guess, a combination of Treasure of the Sierra Madre and The Wages of Fear. And so the lead character in the shot that I've chosen is a guy called Robinson, who played by Jude Law, who sees himself as an island. He's a moral, considers himself to be a moral and ethical island, whereby the rest of the world has gone insane. The rest of the world owes him back for the wrongs that has been done to him, and this is the start of the sequence whereby he gets injured, he recovers, and then he starts to the gold fever takes hold. The reason why I chose the clip is try very hard to eradicate the complexities of logistics from the imagery that we make. And this was shot on a real submarine, submerged in 20 feet of water. Just the top of it was out. And in order to achieve it, we had to say, well, why don't we watch the clip, and then I'll talk some nonsense. So the choice of the clip was less for sort of emotional and poetic reasons, and more for as an example of sort of stupid logistics that shouldn't get in the way of what it is that we're trying to achieve in terms of storytelling. And so to that's a real hatch in a real submarine submerged in water. There's no power to the sub, so in order to turn any lights, every one of the lights in the shot was put in. Every one of the flickering things is a program, and the dolly was on purpose-built track. It was a purpose-built dolly on purpose-built track, holding a purpose-built arm with a refined remote head to fit through to the hatch. None of us could be within 40 feet of the actor because it was down. We had to be at the other end of the tunnel. My focus puller, Tim, who pulled that shot somewhere out there, did astonishingly well. And and it was. But hopefully, it's an example of trying to throw stuff away. So that film was entirely an example of trying to generate a submarine as a character. So it goes through, as a character, it goes through 8 different lighting states to oppress the contents of the can, as it were. So like a can of something, like they're trapped, and we have to, ratchet the stress and ratchet the stress and ratchet the stress.
Why wasn't it built? I mean, why you used? Is that for a reason?
It's a reasonably good question. It was deemed that the set, so the room that the camera tracked into was the torpedo room. Each of the hatches is live, and we used each of the hatches to dispose of bodies and various things. And the complexity of the set was deemed too good to try to copy. And I agree with that. So we just embarked on some logistical challenges.
Made your life really difficult. And tell us about your relationship with Kevin MacDonald.
Well, yeah.
Are you as close as these guys seem to be close with their directors?
Yeah, well, I've just shot again for him over the summer, so which was nice to be invited back. But yeah, when I met Kevin for Black Sea, he obviously had a long-standing relationship with Anthony Dodd Mantle, so fairly large shoes to fill. And and I when I met him, same approach that I have with every director that I meet that I've not worked with before, which is to try to distill my ideas into like a lookbook and get a conversation going and see if we see things in a fun way. And hopefully you have a clash of a healthy clash of opinion about how a certain scene should be photographed, how what technique you should use, and all that kind of stuff. And because they're coming at it from one direction, and it's your responsibility to hone that in a we've all got our hands on the clay, and it's our job to keep a director's hands wet and not let them slip up on the nose.
That's you're making a pot, are you? You're turning a
turning it, or anything really. You want to make it Henry Moore, rather than
Is it like that scene in Ghost where she's like
very much so, but with
together.
Slightly bigger dungarees.
And just to ask you more a little bit, and the way that you pick films and directors, is it similar to these guys, or what's the way that you do it, and how do you choose projects?
Yeah, well, so first of all, I read the script, and I feel when you read the script and you visualize the movie as you're reading, that's pretty much the best it's ever going to be. When you're reading a scene and you've got if you're lucky, some of the casting has been done, so you can sit and you can literally piece together things in your head. And then if you, in the meeting, when you meet the director, things kick off, then it's really, really cool. And then they say, we'd like you to do the film, and you go, yeah. That's it.
Okay. So let's move on to Ula, and I haven't seen what you've shown. So tell us a little bit why you chose this piece, because I think you were quite brave to choose this piece.
Yeah.
And so I want everybody to know why you chose it.
I've done lots of movies. I'm really proud of this. I thought I'll change a bit of a topic, and I make put scenes which challenged me, but which changed me. And I really believe that there are a few jobs which are stepping stones, and that TV drama and the scene I chose is the one I like probably the least of. Well, not maybe the least, but I'm not sure. The whole show was a massive challenge for me. I've never done a lot of things before. When I got the job, basically it's a clip from a TV drama I did called The Game, and that was my first ever nighttime setup I had to do. And the script was saying we have to shoot in disused fanfare. I really don't like fanfares. And I had to light it. And I thought, I don't know really how to do it creatively. We meant to shoot there over one day. I ended up going there 2 more times, and really, really, truly disliked every single moment of shooting that scene.
So this is unbelievably brave of Ula to come here and show us her first night shoot that she'd never ever shot before, and show us what she didn't like doing and how difficult it was. But it's brilliant because she's actually being honest, and she's like, all of us have been in situations that are very similar to this, where we're put in situations where we don't know how to quite do it, and we just have to figure it out. So I'd like to thank Ula for choosing this, because I think she's a very good cinematographer, BSc, and very brave.
I just want to say that we did not get the memo about the blue shirts, because we all are so well matched. I just want to say I am very proud of the show I've done. There was just the first scene I shot at night. There was no available light source, and we were shooting by the motorway. And the clip is very long. Please cut it in half. There is one shot, which is a wide shot with a guy and a gun. Maybe that could be the end, or I could say something. But
just say something. Just say something.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's rugby later on, so we can All right, let's see it, please.
Skywalk. 3 floors up. Multiple movements in the corridor. The door's opening. David has moved to the center of the room. 2 men have entered behind him. One heavy set, the other lithe. There's no sound of the impact of their shoes on the floor. Just the creak of the boards, so they're wearing rubber soles. The heavy one is still in front of the door.
This is excellent. You've done a very...
I can't hear what they're saying.
Some vodka, but I thought it was a bit of a cliche.
The other one's crossing quickly to the window. He's closing the blinds. Why is he closing the blinds? What's going on? What's he saying?
Jesus Christ!
Do you think he's all right?
I doubt it. You just hit him with a plank. Come on. It's not him.
It's not who? Joe. Hey.
You go that way.
Hey, how come you get the gun? Joe.
Well, I thought it was rather good. I don't know what she's talking about.
I think that the point out of it is I mean, most of all the feature films I've done are very emotionally close to me. It's very important that the scripts I choose, actually for all the projects I choose, I have to feel emotionally close to it. That scene I didn't. Why I thought it would be good to choose. I also worked with the crew. I've never worked before within the scale. And if anyone tells you that night shots are three-point lighting, it's a lie. It's really complicated. Every time when I go into night shoot, I try to solve a puzzle. We were shooting by the motorway, which comes around with lots of regulations. I couldn't point the lights where I wanted to. Then we prepped with my gaffer, Tala, where we're going to put the lights. We had a location recce. Then we came on a day, and exactly where we wanted to put the lights, we couldn't. So it was a massive challenge. We had to rethink the whole setup. And when you've got two cranes, a massive light rig, those changes, when you do them on a day, are very hard. And I am proud what we achieve and how we achieve this. But it's been very hard. Then we had to come back without the cranes and then match the shots again and again. And I think actually what we achieved is, together with the colorist Asa, I think we've done a pretty good job in the end.
Very good. Despite all the problems, which we always do have, you did a fantastic job. And it's a good place maybe for us now to leave it to any of you who might want to ask any questions to the panel. And we've got a microphone coming round, and we'll be happy to answer. Nick Noland.
Not so much a question. It's just whenever I've watched Ula's material, I've always said she has beauty in her eyes. She has beauty in her mind, and it reflects out there on the screen. So much of that. Maybe the night stuff was a little bit over the top with the plastic and all that, but all the time those images are going upstairs in there, there's beauty there. And the point being that what you have, what a cinematographer has in their mind, and how that reflects and how they work towards that on set is so important. So no question, just a statement.
I agree entirely.
And well done, Ula, and everybody else.
So I'm wondering, when it comes to visual effects and CGI, Ex Machina being an example, how much of a problem is that for you guys at this stage where you're shooting the film?
I mean, again, it's just one of those things that really depends on the working process, who it is that you are, who your VFX company is. And we were really fortunate in this sense to work with someone who's Andrew Whitehurst, who consequently actually won an Oscar for his work on this movie, because his approach was very unconventional. We selected, when we were looking at glass, Jenny and I, and we selected some very old anamorphic lenses that each one was just so different than the other. One could look at them technically and say, these need to be discarded very quickly and thrown into the sea or something. But they're great lenses. They tell a story. And Andrew didn't flinch. He sort of looked at them and was like, great, I want, every aberration to him was a joy. And we didn't have any green screen or anything like that. There were no tracking markers. It was just purely, you shoot the movie you want to shoot as a piece of drama. And and we work around that. And I think, again, that approach from Andrew is just genius, because then you're not really aware, you become unaware of the VFX, if you like. And it soon becomes about a story between two people, three people in this case. So in that sense, we were quite lucky, but I guess, your experience now might be quite different with the space movie. It's I
mean, what started with Arrival. Arrival was the first. I never really shot a blue screen, period, until Arrival. So I came in with a certain level of ignorance that that you kind of hope at the end of the day benefits the film, because the only thing at that point in my body of work I was really invested in was flesh and bones. So just what's in the foreground, everything in the background to me at that point was an artifact of optics. You know what I mean? And so for me, I just wanted to continue that conversation with the work, and it was a challenge. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just be real honest with you. Like, the first day I came to the office, our visual effects supervisor, who's a wonderful guy, handed me a printout from Airy that said how to expose a blue screen, and slid that to me. You know what I mean? So that tells you where that relationship was going for the rest of the film. And so, it was a challenge on everybody's end, and it took a certain level of compromise, logical compromise, obviously, so that Denis could benefit from the work. But it was, I wanted to use a certain kind of glass, and I didn't budge on that. And I knew that I didn't have to know much, and I didn't know a lot going in, but at least I trust my optics. And so if I trust my optics, I felt like everything would fall into place. And, as Chris has said, I'm a person that's also very vigilant about a lookbook. And, Martina Hugel and Ivanhoe was a big reference for us. And Martina's work I think mirrors some of the stuff I've been doing in my body work, where I love the image. Actually, my colorist, Darren Ray, is here from Star Wars film, and he can tell you, I love a milky image. And so that's not something I'm willing to give up right now. That's something this idea of spirited blacks, this is something I'm trying to explore in my work, and that wasn't something I wanted to give up on Arrival. So, and that was reflective in the lookbook. So I felt like as long as I gave him the lookbook and said, this is what the film's gonna be, and this was agreed upon by me, Patrice, and Denis, Patrice, and I, that he had to fall in place. And so it was tough for him, right? Because he's saying we got a $30,000 helicopter asset that's a quarter of a mile away, and it took 4 VFX artists 10 years ago. They put it in this perfect library of VFX helicopters, and we should see that asset. And we were saying, well, fuck that asset. It's gonna look better at a 1.3 out of focus. It's gonna have more resonance in relationship to our story if it's not in focus. Just as like in Arrival, the spaceship it's not really important. You know what I mean? It's kind of peripheral. It's a place we go to, but we're not in awe by what we all call the big pumice stone. It's just sort of like, and those and for me, I think that helps me understand and stay invested in the foreground. It helps me stay invested in what is most important to me and why I want to tell stories, which is sort of to deconstruct and sort of unpack humanity. And we're lucky on Star Wars because I'm working with 2 analog filmmakers. You know what I mean? These are cats. Let the Lego movie tell you everything. These are 2 analog filmmakers. Once I was shooting a commercial with Mark Romanek, and we were framing something up, and he knows how much I love Harris Savides, right? So it's part of the reason why I do this. And he came to me and he said, yeah, man, just pan left there. And I was like, nah, this is it. This is the frame. But it's Mark Romanek, so you kind of have to do it because it's. Yeah. So I panned left, and it was just like this little thing on the edge of frame that was totally imperfect, and it just broke all the symmetry of the film, right? And I grew up in a funeral home, so like symmetry for me is really important. And I said, damn, that's interesting. It just totally, my body did something to transform me. He said, yeah, man, that's what Harris taught me. We would frame up a chain link fence, and Harris would just pan left, and just where the chain link fence kind of broke symmetry, made the frame everything it was supposed to be. And, I try to take that meta, that logic, and apply it to all the films I work on. And, with Star Wars, we're in a perfect opportunity to break the tropes, break convention, which is a scary word for me, because I wasn't trained in a university or an environment where convention was even understood. We didn't know how to make films. In my film school, we just did stuff, and that's a film. And then we had to convince everybody else that was a film. But, you know, I feel that way in this film. You know, it was just, you know, with all the visual effects. I'm getting back to the visual effects conversation. With all the visual effects heavy, with it being such a visual effects heavy film, I still feel like I'm making a film with my friends. You know, and again, I'm going to shoot this the way I would shoot it if I didn't have a robot walking through the frame. And we'll let Rob Bredow, who's a great guy, who's super sensitive, our visual effects supervisor, who gets it, who's invested, he'll figure it out. And if that person's a true collaborator, they'll say, listen, it's still about the foreground. It's still about this story here. Let me figure out how to roto out Chewie's hair if it was better to shoot a little bit lower and his hair got into our top light, you know? And so those things help. Those things count, especially for me, you know, and I know Rob will say this to me, like, man, visual effects films seem way out of my radar. I was never interested, didn't want to have anything to do with them, you know, so I felt like if I'm going to go do them, I got to still be able to be me, you know? And so it just helps to be real clear on what your intentions are and let that drive everything and put it on the table and walk away, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to have one conversation about it. Yeah, I'll compromise on a couple of things. If I know that it's worth it to have flatter lenses, cleaner glass for this sequence, I'm willing to do that. But that's not going to become a habit. You know, we're going to stick to our guns. We're going to stick to the rules, so that we can, you know, tell the story that we all invested to tell.
Your rules, and that's the thing. It's the rules are to be broken. Yep. And anything else from you guys on that subject, or? We'll go to another question.
I just want to say, I've done 4 features. The one which I'm doing now, we're grading. And we had a massive discussion about green screens. And the story is about 3 years' memory between Gloria Graham and Peter Turner. And we have been told that we had a scene in Malibu Beach, and everyone is telling us that we should go for green screen and use old techniques. We knew that we can't afford to go to LA. We were shooting mainly in Pinewood, and all the VFX people were telling us we should go for green screen and then superimpose the ocean onto a screen. And we decided not to do it. We've built an 80-foot back projection screen instead. And we projected it. I think it's the biggest back projection has been done so far. Lester has, I think, sent the spec to the World Record Guinness Book. And but one thing I must say, it did work and it looks really nice. It looks beautiful. And when actors came on set and they saw, it was a very simple setup. There was a sand and a screen and the ocean, and their faces was unforgettable. How we used the sort of on-screen techniques, on-camera techniques instead of green screen, and we're very proud of it.
So another example of no rules. Find your own rules. Find your own way of doing things, and maybe they're better, and often they are better for you. So, any other questions? Some at the back over there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just had a question in relation to, particularly when you're working on these emotional and sometimes dialogue-driven movies, how you find the cinema in there, and particularly there was a shot at the end of Rob's.
Who are you talking to?
Oh, the panel.
The whole panel.
To the panel, and then in particular, it was from the end of Rob's clip from Ex Machina, when the shot ends on Domhnall and it's got the piece of where the glass has been shattered. Whether that was like one of those happy accidents where it shows that, you know, his world has just been shattered from this reveal that she's given, or it was something that was always planned.
It wasn't an accident. It was completely devised. Every single frame in that movie was never an accident. That's not true, actually. It was an accident. But it did. In fact, it's interesting that, just a tiny little digression, when we were grading the movie, there was a film journalist who was in the room who'd been like pursuing Alex for some time, and I think really the relationship was about the fact that he had a script he wanted Alex to read, and Alex was like, "Fuck it, I've just got to just like deal with it." But at the same time, you know, we want favourable reviews for the movie. So he's sitting in the room and we're grading this particular scene, and it gets to that shot and we're watching it through, and okay. You know, then we switch it off, and it was Asa actually, also brilliant colorist, and Alex and I and Asa were just sitting there, and we looked at him, and we're like, okay, all right, well, fine. I think we can, you know, there's a couple of little changes, whatever. And this journalist was like, he said, yeah, I just want to say that you might not have noticed, but there's a crack in the glass. You might just want to, there's probably some sort of VFX thing you can do to cover it up, maybe. And Alex was like, should we go and have lunch, mate? Let's go and have something to eat. But sorry, the question being, what was the question? It wasn't about crack.
It was intentional. It was intentional.
Yeah, it was intentional. Yeah.
Yeah. So, any other questions over there, front middle row?
I have a question for Bradford. You seem very passionate in your interviews and today as well. Like personally, very passionate about the decisions and references and little things you talk about. Have you ever had trouble politically, and I mean obviously film politics, that passion brought problems to you during preparation and maybe discussions of the project, and how you deal with it?
Not problems. Not. It's a really good question. Not problems. It hasn't brought me problems, as in I said something outside of set, or I said something in public that, I mean, I may be feeling the ramifications of it at some point, but no, nothing direct, not outside. I'm always having my own internal conversation with myself about why is I'm doing this, what is it, why am I here, you know? There's a lot of things that happen in film culture, filmmaking culture, that seem very counterintuitive to who I am. And so, you know, if you hear any perceived passion, it's not necessarily passion, it's survival for me, you know? You know, frankly, if I didn't have filmmaking, I'd be like a lot of my friends that are just not here anymore. And so this is why I do this. This is all I really have. So a lot of what you hear is survival, you know? I got 2 kids. I'm raising 2 black boys in America, you know what I mean? I've got a community waiting for me to come home. I've got aunties and uncles that have expectations. And so everything I do is just like, I don't want to let them down, you know? I want to, you know, for my elders, you know, the things I say are really things that have been implanted in me as a child, and I want them to know that no matter what trophy or statue or whatever bullshit I get, that I'm still like birthed from them, you know? And so that's really important. That's really important to me. So, you know, even if there were ramifications for it, like for me at the end of the day, it's like if I made a left-hand turn, I couldn't forgive myself, you know? And so a lot of what I do, or a lot of decisions I make, or a lot of things I bring to the table is so that I can hopefully wake up, number one, wake up and face my wife, who's like relentless. So I wake up in the morning and look her in the eye and know that I've done my due diligence to sustain my own humanity, but also sustain what I assume is the projected humanity for my children. And also at the same time, so that I don't wake up in the morning and my aunties and my uncles don't call me and say, I heard what you said, and that was totally not who we are. So yeah, you know, it's just about a certain amount of baggage that I carry with me that's not really about the work. It's the community baggage, it's the worldview baggage that I carry with me into, you know, I'm just being honest, into a lot of spaces where it doesn't mirror the world I want to live in. You know, I'm working on a film set where there are like 2 black people. You know what I mean? And that troubles me. And so it's very hard for me to walk onto the set every day and say, oh, I just feel lucky to be the one who was chosen. I don't want to be the chosen one. I want to be me. If it was for me, if I had my choice, I'd be making films with all my homies, and it wouldn't be that problem. But in the world, in the culture in which we exist, the world culture that we exist in the film culture we exist in, it's not reflective of the world that I want to live in. So I feel like sometimes I have to be that vector not uplift others, but to keep myself engaged, because if sometimes it feels daunting, you know. Sometimes it feels like, man, this is 150, 200-year art form, 200-year-old art form. It's a very young art form, and it's the one that's unpacked so much history. It's the one that's been the biggest contributor to world liberation struggles. It's been one of the arts that's been a great contributor to world revolution. But when you look inside of what's going on, it doesn't reflect our revolutionary potential. It still seems stagnant. And so I don't expect anybody else to change that. All I can try to be is a vector for what I feel like it should look like. And so.
But presumably you're constantly questioning yourself. I'm not talking about the bigger subjects, but I mean constantly every day, and sometimes you're wrong, and sometimes we're all wrong, and sometimes you're persuaded into doing something else, like panning the camera a little bit left, and actually it's a much better frame. I like doing all this, and that's what we're constantly doing, and that's collaboration, and that's what we
learning.
have to do.
And that's learning. That's evolution. You know, I feel like that's you know. Yeah, I can be stubborn and say, I'm not going to pan the camera left, I'm not going to pan the camera right, and I do that quite a lot. Like, I'm going to stick here, and then I pan the camera left, and that's like, the pan left is a total worldview switch for me. It's an evolution, and that for me is what I try to embody. I would hope our filmmaking collaborations would embody, which is like a constant evolutionary process. So I'm more than willing to pan left or right when I know I'm going to learn from it. I'm more than willing to pan left and right when I know that I'm going to be changed from it, you know, as Ula said.
And that's a question of respect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whoever's telling you to do that, you respect them.
That's right.
And you say, okay, let's give it a go. Let's see what it looks like. If it's better, is it not?
Right.
Any more, another question over there at the back?
Yeah, just here.
Oh, there, this young lady.
Okay. Hi, this question is for Ula. Thank you very much for your refreshing honesty about how difficult it can be. But what's your relationship like to the directors you work with? Is that still a work in progress for you? Have you worked with the same director again and again?
No, actually. I mean, I do. I have a couple of directors who I work with. The last film, Paul McGuigan, we're about to start another project. And there is another director, Charles Martin, who I work with a lot. He's a very good friend. It depends. The sort of relationship which Rob has with Alex Garland is probably what we all inspire to. I mean, that's a very special relationship, and I think every one of us can agree on that. But I think most of the time you get the project, and even if you have a good relationship with the director, they might want to work with somebody else with a different eye. You get hired because of your way of looking at the world. That's what I would like to think. And what is suitable for certain projects, what I'll be suitable for certain projects, I won't be for others. And I respect their decision on that. And very often, also there is a decision making on my behalf where I look at the script and think, I think you're better off with somebody else. So most of the time, I take projects on daily basis, and sometimes I choose the project because I like working with the directors, and others because I really feel passionate about the script. It's I think that's really how the choices I make.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Billy, the one here.
Hello.
Hi.
I had a question for, sorry, I'm in the middle, for Bradford about Star Wars. You mentioned wanting to break a lot of the tropes and conventions of Star Wars. Is there anything that you feel like you've talked to Greg or Steve or any of the other guys about, or anything that you want to hold on to that you feel like is crucial to Star Wars, or do you just kind of throw it all out and start with your own perspective on it?
No, it's a balance, you know. You keep some of it because, you know, you got this, for me in this instance, you keep a lot of it because a lot of it, I mean, you gotta remember, you know, Star Wars was forged out of independent cinema, you know what I mean? It didn't start off as a studio film, it started off with friends making movies, and so those little kernels of like innocence and naivete are still in there, you know what I mean? Those are the things that you carry with you. You don't unpack those. Those are actually national treasures that you don't unpack. You actually just, those things come as they are, and you actually just bear witness to it. But yeah, actually, the first person I spoke to when I got offered the job was Greg. You know, he was like a cinematographer that I respect beyond understand. You know what I mean? Like, if I was gonna ask anybody, it would be him. You know, he's the person that I felt I have the most connection to, taste-wise, etc. And so, yeah, I mean, one of the things that just sort of is like one of the universal principles is like you should only take the film if you can do you. You know, if you can't do you in there, if you can't find yourself in that space, this is not the film to go and break it. You know what I mean? This is not the one where you go become it. You evolve and you sort of transform like water within the ethos, but you don't change who you are. This is the one where you try to at least bring a kernel of, you know, as Ula was saying, your own accent, your own personal voice to the piece. And that was, you know, it was just a reminder again, you know, those are those things you think you understand and you carry with you at every project, but you know, you forget those things. Those are things that kind of go to the wayside when people are dangling carrots in front of your face, you know, and so it was just good to hear somebody I respect remind me that it's important to bring voice to the table, bring your own personal voice, your own intuition, your own thing to the table, so.
Well, you know, even Roger Deakins, when he did The Bond, you know, it had a very different look from all the other Bonds, and it's the same principle, I think. You know, you just bring your thing to it.
You bring your thing, yeah.
Yeah. So Billy Williams here would like to have a question.
Billy Williams, wicked.
Yeah, baby.
Respect.
Thank you, John, and thank you to all the panelists for giving us a very interesting insight into the way you work as individuals and what we aspire to do. And there's been a lot of talk about how important our relationship is with the director. And of course, as has been mentioned, it starts from the script as to whether you like the script and whether you want to be one of those interpreters that contributes to that script. But not very much has been said today about our relationship as cinematographers with the actors. Because if the actors don't get it right, you're not going to have a good movie. And I've always felt close to the actors and have always tried to give them the freedom to do what they want to do and to go where they want to go on the set. And to make the camera work for that. Because if you get the frame and the composition and the movement right, and the actors are confident that they've got all the support from the crew, you're on the way to getting a better movie. And I just thought that, you know, these are things that sometimes are a bit overlooked about the actor's performance and how the actors are going to look, where you're going to put the light to give the best effect for the scene.
Very good point, very good point.
Each scene has
And
something different
crucial.
to say, and it's the actors that are giving you the emotion. We are part of the team which supports them as we support the director and the script.
Well, let's go individually to every one of our panelists here and ask them their relationship with the actors and how they choose what to do and how sometimes they have to do something different because of the performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good point, and for me, everything essentially stems from that one performance and that relationship. It's why I always, you know, I'm always in a position where I'm operating, so I have that very close relationship with the actor. And in the case of Alicia, you know, we've done 2 other movies since this one and developed a very good relationship that is, you know, based on trust, essentially. But also, you know, something like this would absolutely not exist if it wasn't for that synergy between Alicia and the camera and myself, as it were. And we had a prep time that was in fact longer than the shoot time for the film on this, and we would go down to the set at very, very early stages, sometimes before it was even constructed. It was marked out on the floor, and myself and Alex and Alicia and Donal, and we just wander around and she had a background as a dancer for some years before she became an actress. So she had a great sense, obviously a great sense of movement, but a real understanding of space and someone's place in space, within that context of the location or the stage or whatever it is that you're shooting. And for me, in terms of framing, in terms of composition and the way in which you capture that moment of emotion, is as much to do with someone's position within that space. And of course, the face itself is incredible. It's like a map. It's like it's what you look for. But sometimes I think like for example, a big close-up on a longish lens, you only get half of what you should get from an emotional moment like that. Whereas if you're a little closer on a slightly wider lens, you're placing that person within, and that emotional moment that they're having within the context of the location, within the context of the room, within the context of everyone else that's there, every other performer in the room. And I think, for me, it's the key thing. It's like where are those emotional points? How do we find them? And then they, to me, dictate how the camera moves. So it's never the other way around. So that relationship is really super important.
So, Brad, I mean, I think I know what you're going to say before you say it. A shorter answer, if I could get out of you, and then I'll get shorter answers out of these two as well.
What is he trying to say?
I'll have one word.
Yeah. You can interrupt, John. You can just like.
It's a rugby game.
No, I mean, I'm having a little bit of a imposter syndrome moment right now because, for me, it's like Amy Adams. If there was no Amy Adams, there would be no that film is not possible. Literally, as far as I'm concerned, literally, that camera was not able to participate in the film the way that it did if it was no Amy Adams. This is a person that allowed us to have the matte box, literally this close to her face, bump her head on the matte box, and I'm so sorry, and she says, I get it, I'm rocking with you, I know what you're trying to do, and let's do this. And so, that film's journey is Louise's journey, which is Amy Adams' journey. And so, and really, this is the only reason why I even want to make films, is so that I can, like, as Rob said, we have a very special, our own little personal cinema through the viewfinder. That little screen, there are a lot of monitors now, you can throw all that away, but that little screen that you're bearing witness to, you pick the optics that determine the periphery, and that is uniquely your experience, and you're allowed to have that experience as a cinematographer. Everybody agrees that is what you are allowed to have. That's the gift you're given as the image maker on set. And so if it's not about that, then everything else doesn't really matter unless it's about helping to determine how we bear witness to how bodies move through space. And so, for me, and I know Denise would say the same thing, our film is Amy Adams' film. We were following her, you know what I mean? We didn't even know where to go. She told us where to go, and it's very much reflected in the way he spoke to her as his actress, right? He wasn't like, I need you to go there, I need you to do this. It was like, I don't know, can you show me what, we all asked questions, and she showed us. And so that film, the whole tone of the film.
That relationship has to happen to make it a good film.
That's it.
It's impossible to make a good film unless the relationship and the characters and the people in the film radiate.
That's it.
They come to you through the lenses and things. And how's your relationship with actors?
I think generally the four of us are all cinematographers that tend to operate our own A camera. And
me too.
Yeah, well, there we go. Yeah, and 5. There's probably anyone else. And I think it's about creating a level of experience within the frame that says something emotionally about what a character is going through, and you can't impose that on a scene. You can't impose that we want to be moving closer to a character that doesn't want to be that's not going through a moment in their life that wants, an observer close. And likewise, you want to be confronting an issue that needs to be confronted. So you need to put it, front and center. So it's not, I think we tend to generally, as a generalization, work in a way that is as immersive an experience as possible to every viewer. And as we're all, each of us, the first audience member. And if you're not moved by the words that an actor's saying in front of you as you're doing a push-in or revolving around someone's head as you're catching an eye light in someone's eye, then you should start again. Think of another thing to do because you're wrong.
And what about you, Ula?
Well, I agree to all of it, but I do like, especially when hand-holding and an actor do something and you don't expect it and it's something unusual and you react to it exactly in sync. And that's really descriptive to how you've built the relationship. And sometimes it doesn't happen at the beginning of the movie. It happens halfway through, and you look at each other and you know we trust each other. And that's a great feeling. I love it.
Well, that's a lovely way to end this panel and seminar. And thank you all for coming. Thank you to the panel, to Rob, Brad, Christopher, and Ula. And I just want to say one last thing, is that now that Brad is in our country here, I want to make him feel as comfortable and for it to be the most rewarding experience that he's had so far in the film industry. That's it, guys. That's all, folks.